Hey, welcome everyone, and thanks very much. The first thing you're probably asking yourself is, what the hell's you doing up here? I don't know if you can see the scenery or the view from here. Probably not too good in the background. I'm on the Sunshine Coast in Australia, and I'm on what we would say our highest point around the Sunshine Coast is, and it's a ridge or ridge line that's looking back down over the ocean and some a lake in the back there, a lot of natural forest, and then all our beach suburbs down along there as well. And there's a reason why I've chose to actually be right here now to talk to you. Which Sam, if you can remind me later on, I'll tell that story a bit further down the track. But look, first of all, I'd like to say that thank you and welcome for giving up your time. I know that you're from everywhere. I asked Dr. Sam originally when she mentioned doing this. I said, look, what is it like with this Worth community? Where are these people? What do they do? Who are they? And she said, hey, look, a lot of them, well, all of them are people who are wanting to really improve themselves to make an impact with their life. And they're also people who are driven to do things not only for themselves, but to be a positive inspiration to others. And I just thought, well, they're my sort of people. So I'm really happy to be here. And look, one of the reasons I ran up the top of here to sort of get, even though you're quite fortunate that you can't smell me at the moment, but it's a really hot, sweaty day, and it's very open all the way up here. And one of the reasons to get up here and get it here in that state, I guess, was to blow a bit of energy off first, because I've got a fair bit of that, and also to get me in a state where I was completely open and I guess a bit vulnerable, or could really share stuff that would be meaningful to you. I do get the opportunity to speak to audiences and to a lot of people in different parts of my life. And I guess I wanted to make this a little bit different in that I'm really happy to share things that I probably wouldn't share to most people, to most audiences. And in doing so, there's a bit of trust here and everything, I guess, as well. So I might just give you a little bit of background. And you might have registered that Dr. Sam used the term ultra endurance enthusiast. So I'm not an athlete at all. I don't call myself an athlete. I know lots of athletes who do it, some who do it for a living and some who do it as an extreme hobby, and they represent their country doing it and things. And that's not me. Okay, I'm 54 years of age. I am a single dad. I bring up two boys. I have a regular day job. That's how Dr. Samantha and I met. And I just do some other things. And I'd like to start off, I guess, of saying, letting you know how that actually started. And it's not a story that I've shared much. I've shared it with a couple of big audiences. And usually on those two occasions that I have, I get fairly emotional, but it's not because I'm upset with anything, because, as you know, everything turned out great where I am now. It's just that it flashes me back to, I guess, a time where, things weren't super hot. So if we go back to 2018, it was April 2018, and I was actually lying there in a hospital bed, and there was nothing major going on. It was just I was in a hospital bed. I was there, and my boys were quite young at the time. Their mum, or my wife at the time, brought them up to visit on this evening, and it was actually just 2 weeks out from what would have been my 10th annual Island Charity Swim. Now, the Island Charity Swim is a swim, and I can actually see it before. There's a tiny little island off the coast here, and anyway, this swim started out as a dare between two Aussie blokes like over 20 years ago. And as with most good Australian stories, it was a dare that went wrong. And eventually, what happened was that these two blokes who weren't athletes at all and weren't great swimmers swam from Majimba Beach around Old Woman Island way down to Mooloolaba. They're all good Aboriginal names for those of you who aren't from Australia: Mooloolaba, Majimba. And anyway, that distance is about 11 kilometres, and that swimming takes you a couple of kilometres offshore, about 2.5 kilometres offshore. So I like to say it's sort of like 11 kilometres of swimming on the wrong side of the shark nets. So it's a pretty scary swim. Anyway, that became an annual event, and that supports all the awesome kids and families of the special schools up on the Sunshine Coast. There's now 3 special schools up here, and it's quite a big community. So that event had been going on for some time. It was up to, I had done it. This would have been my 10th year back in 2018. And there I was, 2 weeks before the event, lying in a hospital bed. Um, my wife at the time had brought the boys up. And look, my marriage was over. It was terrible. And I was lying there, and it was just a terrible experience. That interaction is stuck there, on a drip, and your boys being tiny and they're jumping on your bed and everything, and just there was zero discussion. And look, at the time, I was like, just thinking about all the things that I could have done better in my life so that I wasn't in that position. And that I guess I was bashing myself up a bit and blaming myself quite a bit. And the feeling I had from that was like, where to from here? How can I get myself out of feeling this way? And what positive um, thing could I do? And the only thing I could think of doing to sort of like change, to sort of really boom and change my whole mindset around that, was just push love out into the community, do something so good, give everyone a hug, that sort of thing. So I lay there and I just went. They left and it was horrific. Just it was a bad experience there. And after they left, I went, you know what? I've just got to do something a bit bigger, and uh, and just do more, and give more. And so I just got it in my head. I'm going to miss my 10th annual swim, or the 10th time I'm going to do it. And I just made up my mind there. I said, you know what? I'm going to do it 10 times in 10 days. No one's done anything like that before up here. And I thought, I'll just do it. So fast forward, I get out, and a couple of months later, I'd done a massive 15 swims, training swims. I think 11 of those were in the pool, and then 4 of those were in the ocean. And I decided to do this 10 swims in 10 days. And that
So Brendan,
really,
I'm going to stop you there,
please
and
do.
I'm going to ask you, when you said I decided to do 10 swims in 10 days, why did you decide to do that? Because everyone listening now is thinking, why would he do 10 swims? Like, why? Why was it that? When you were lying in your hospital bed and you thought to yourself, well, I'm just going to do that. Why did you decide to do that? And why
Well,
did you, and had you done anything like that before?
look, I'd done, back in the uni days, I sort of didn't take university too seriously, and I took triathlon a lot more seriously. So I used to train a lot. I've done, stacks of marathons. I'd never really, and I'd just done heaps of training and heaps of my own stuff. But however, I was never even really an amazing swimmer, or right into swimming, doing squads and stuff like that. Uh, so the 10 part of it just came from, this would have been my 10th year. And knowing that I was about to miss it, I thought, how can I tie that in? And I just went, you know what? I'm just going to do it every day for 10 days. And just, to be honest with you, I wanted to find a black hole. I wanted to bury myself in something. So 10
And
times in.
you chose to do it like that?
Mm.
Okay. So how did that go?
Yeah, look, it was amazing. Like most of the things I've done for a long time, I sort of kept it to myself. And then about 3 weeks before I did it, I'd had a mate lined up who was just going to. We got a jet ski from local jet ski suppliers up here, and he was going to be my ski safety. I had a mate who was going to do a bit of paddling for bits of the swims, and I finally started telling people like 3 weeks before. And I thought, geez, I better raise a bit of money for this, hey? And so it sort of started off like that. And it's like, yeah, how do you, like, the goal is to get more people involved in the Island Charity Swim, and to go and do something that really moves people to do things. But then I do it without telling anyone, right?
Yeah.
And
So why
how
didn't you tell anyone?
it's it's something that I've only recently, and I would say in the last 2 years, a year and a half, have got together a bit easier. I have this aversion, have always had this aversion to highlighting the things that I do, because I have not wanted to, sort of be, hey, I'm doing this, I'm great, or something like that. When you do these events, when you get to know these people, they're quite, it's quite a humbling experience. they think we're amazing. We're out there, and I'm just one person who does that event. So there's plenty of people who go and swim like that who aren't athletes in that as well. And for us, we know doing it, we get so much more out of it than what we give. Right? It's such a rewarding experience, and I guess because of those things, I've always maybe an Australian thing as well. I just kept it in check, kept it a bit low key, and however that served me great. And I might actually look. I'll just jump straight in. There's probably someone on this call, a friend of ours, Kat Matson, who trains people how to speak with impact and stuff. And she actually nailed it on the head a couple of years ago at me. And she said, "Brennan, they're facts. You've done it. You've done all these other things, and they're facts." So that sort of helps, like to realize, hey, look, this helps other people, and it gets the people involved, and it does. Move people to want to be a part of something bigger and to do more with themselves. So I've been a lot better at doing that. So that's how the 10 times in 10 days went. And I guess the 10 days was trying to find, like I said, a black hole to bury myself in.
So do you think you also didn't tell people because it was only real when you told them?
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah. It definitely was real once I told a few people, because all of a sudden, you got Channel 7 going, hey, can we get you down to the beach? And
you had to do it, right?
And before it happened, and then as the 10 days went, it just built this massive momentum, and each day there'd be more people coming down on the beach when I was finishing, and interacting with more people, and I'd have kids from the school would come down and be on the beach, and they'd have these they would have done big signs and stuff, and they were really good. And some of the parents of the kids from the special schools would come down. So yeah, that grew momentum, and it definitely helped set the stage then to go, okay, every year now I want to do something that's like a little bit more challenging, a bit scarier, and probably a little bit more crazier, so that I get more and more people aware of the kids and families of the special schools, and so we can get more people into this event.
So let's talk about the mindset behind this and how you do it. So you and I were speaking a couple of days ago about that part of your mind that you tap into. And I said to you, hey, how did you first get there? How did you know you had that ability? And every time you do something like this, these crazy ultra endurance events that are often a world first, how do you get yourself into that mindset where you're going to attempt it and you achieve them? So how do you do that? And you said to me, oh, I just believe that I can do it, and I don't believe that failure is an option. I'm going to do it, and I see it as it's already been done. So how did you know that you had the ability to tap into that part of your mind, into that sheer grit part of you? And what was the first time you experienced that? And then how did you know that you could tap into that? And how do you tap into that?
That first 10 swim days was a really good learning experience for me. As I said, I was looking for a black hole. I got stronger and stronger every day. And
every day of the 10 days?
Yeah, every day of those 10 days, I was expecting, oh, my body's going to break down. And no, I was getting stronger.
Yeah.
I was getting better. And my mind was like really, it just got switched on. People talk about peak flow states and everything. I think, for me, all of these things, you just go inside yourself and you'd be amazed at you can do a whole lot more than what you really think you can. And that's what I learned out of those 10 days. I got to the 9th day and it was a cyclone. It was the worst day you could ever
As in
see.
the weather or as in your mind?
No. The weather. It was
Okay.
incredible. Like, there was going to be a couple of people who paddled that day. I had a lot of by then, and they couldn't even get out around the island paddling. It was so horrific. And that was a really testing day. However, we powered through it. And I remember through it, like we couldn't stop and eat and drink. It was just too rough. And in those circumstances, it was easy for me to just go to channel into the purpose, I guess, of why I was doing this. And for me, it was quite simple. For families who have these kids, like my children are healthy, there's no problems there. They have this thing for life. They have these high needs people who turn into, young people who turn into adults, and their daily struggle is just this growth. And I've tried to adapt that. When you talk about how do you develop that toughness and everything, I carry that into all parts of life. When I was first separated, I guess, and the boys are with me, the amount of times that I'd race home from work. They were quite young then, so we'd get them down the beach and we'd surf. And this was during winter time, I remember. So we're coming back in the dark, running back up the hill from the surf, and we'd race into home. They'd be jumping into showers and stuff, and I'd be standing there cooking in my wetsuit, dripping water everywhere, and just not giving in to things. So I would take like the struggle in things, like there's people here from everywhere and all sorts of backgrounds in life. I've been very fortunate. I've grown up here in Australia. Done a bit of.
You didn't only live in Australia.
Yeah, I know, but however, I've been in safe environments, right? And I haven't had excessive challenges. Like, look at me, I'm trying to do things to make life more challenging, right? And but I can bring and it's I do make life hard on myself sometimes. However, when we're talking about that mental toughness and that grit, I take all of those things, like even the things that aren't necessarily physical, they're more mental, that grind sort of thing. I just take it on board and just go, okay, go back to like your core self and just really think of your values in whatever challenging situation you are. And that really helps me sort of dig deeper, or I don't even think it's digging deeper. I think the people that I see people all the time, whether it be in physical things or more emotionally and mentally, when you respond emotionally to things and you allow them to get to you, you allow people to get to you, circumstances, and you let them come in and sort of like, crush you down a bit. If you wallow in that, then you won't have that mental toughness to get to where you want to get.
Give us one example of how people that are on this call, because people that are watching you today have challenges in terms of they want something, right? So a lot of the members, the Worth members that are on the call today are working towards a particular goal. A lot of that is starting their own business or getting to a next level in their career. And it's all about self-development, and it's all about being the best version of yourself. And we all come up against, and I was amazing. I watched this little clip from a podcast the other day where they were asking, or the woman was saying, a famous actress was saying, you're going to get 30% of people who are going to support you and really, care about you and want what's best. The other 30% of people, or third, aren't going to give a shit. And then the other 33% are going to want to tear you down for some reason. Whatever that reason is, they're going to go for you. Now, you're talking about a third of the people we come across that are going to try and get inside your mind and break you down for whatever reasons, their own stuff, right? And everyone on this call has experienced something like that. We've all been there. We've all had a situation where, and more than a handful of times, especially when we fail. So we go ahead with the next level of our career, or we go ahead with a business idea that fails, or we lose something, or we lose somebody. What is your suggestion to these people in terms of closing that part of yourself off from the leakage, right, of that getting in, and then also going into yourself and saying what you're saying now, and you and I had a conversation about it yesterday, and I said to you, have you always been like this? And you said, yeah, pretty much. There've been times where things have happened and it's affected you. However, you've moved past it. How? How can these people, do you have a trick for us?
I'll share something, and it comes from a failure and then a success.
Yeah.
And it's a 10-year period and something that I learned. In 2009, doing that island charity swim, I had this idea that I would cover the whole length of our Sunshine Coast from Noosa to Caloundra in one day. And my goal was to run from Noosa down to Majimba Beach, the start line, I guess, which is about, I think it's close to 32 kilometers or something. And then I was going to do the swim, which took me further south down to Mooloolaba. And then I was going to jump out and run again. Now, back then, the event was in August, which is winter, and our winter. And for some reason, we had this bloody heat wave. And so I'm running, from early morning, night before sort of thing, and just on track, really good timing, and just melting. And I got to Majimba feeling a bit sick, eating, and it was rough weather. We had northerly winds, and so the water was really rough. It was actually touch and go whether they would have held it or not. And so I jumped in, seasick the whole way, throwing up, no nutrition in, which is hard to do after you've done 30K and then a 10K swim. When I got out the other end, I was shot. And my goal to keep going down to Caloundra, at that time, I just couldn't do it. And, the doctors, they have a doctor that checks you after you do the swim, and they just go, nah, mate, no. However, that's just...
You can't do it.
Well, and back then, that worked, right? And the people around me were sort of similar mindset. Okay, I'm choosing my words carefully here.
Yes.
So fast forward 10 years, and I did the same thing again, right? Exactly the same event, like running from Noosa down. And this time when I got to...
So how many years later? Sorry? 5 years later.
10 years.
Okay. So you're a decade older.
Right. World more experiences. I've got divorced by then. I've gone through some things. I've kept this like, hey, I've got to do things, push love out into the world, all that sort of stuff, being really good, giving and feeling that return from all that part of my life. Other parts of my life still unfulfilled, but that part was good. And so same thing again. So I run down and when I started off, massive storm, really terrible weather, lots of rain. It got to Majimba, and I knew that they were going to push the swim inside the bay to Mooloolaba. So it meant that at 2:30 in the morning, 3:30 in the morning, I'm running an extra 20 kilometers to add to my day before I can even start the swim. So I'm doing 40 something kilometers, 50 Ks. 50 kilometers before I can start a 10-kilometer swim that was completely unplanned. Did the swim, bit sick in that as well, and then finished off with the run down to Caloundra. So it worked this time. Now, the difference was that by then I picked up this little habit of budgeting a piece of my brain, and I'll just say I call it for shit that goes wrong. So there's always going to be something.
You got a little spot there that you keep available.
I don't know where it is, and maybe I budget a little bit for that. Now, when something goes wrong, and it can be anything, and it is testing still, it's amazing what a difference it makes. It happens, something happens, and there'll be a reaction. I can't, I'm not superhuman, and whether that be a reaction internally, or I vocalize it to the people I love and trust around me, or direct it back at where I felt that has come from. But wherever that's gone, now that I budget for stuff to go wrong, it goes like that really quickly. I still have to face it and deal with it and come up with a solution or figure out how I'm going to get out or maneuver around that. However, I found that stops me from wasting time and getting buried in things that are inconsequential. They're not going to help me. They're not going to serve me well. So if there are people here who are trying to do things, and they'll be slowed down or impeded by people that love them and care for them, however share the same vision, or by a competition business, or someone in the workplace who's not supportive, who doesn't want them to succeed. So the things that would normally stop and slow a person down, and you'll spend a lot of time on that, come back to your purpose and what you're going to do and where that clear goal for you is. Don't give them your energy to like detour you off the rails. So if you take on something, just budget for a bit of shit to go wrong. When it does, you'll lose so much less time around the emotive part and the reacting part, that you'll get into a state where you can change, or at least set a path of motion that's going to get you to where you want a lot faster and with a lot less pain. You'll still have to face it. However, that's what I use to sort of really shortcut and not waste time or give people energy. And we all know that, like with children or animals or anything, if you let them, and if you give them that attention or positive reinforcement or even negative reinforcement, they're after some sort of response. Don't feed it. Don't flame. Don't flame that fire. Just like, hey,
Stay in
there's
your lane.
plenty of people in the world that I can, that will be there and will love to see you do well. Even if
there's 30%.
yeah, there's fun in your life. Just get them. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I've got a couple of questions for you, and I'm gonna start opening the chat. So if anyone wants to ask questions, now's the time, and then we'll come back to them. One of the other things I wanted to know with you is, where do you get your inspiration from? Now, I know we've spoken about the special schools and the families that you support through these events and activities. What about outside of that? Are there any books that you've read, or have there been experiences, or have there been people in your life that have inspired you, and words that ring through your ears or your mind when you're doing these events, that keep you going, that you've picked up from someone or somewhere else, or a book or something that you can suggest or recommend to our followers?
Yeah, there's quite the amount of images and things that went through my head then were pretty long and detailed. I'll rapid fire some back. As far as people go, most people here will probably be very surprised at the type of people who inspire me or move me to want to do more for myself, or like to be more. This last year, just gone, the swim challenge I did was my toughest yet, and for a number of reasons. However, I also chose to have a few people join me because I really wanted to highlight. I wanted to experience something with some other people. I guess I've gone through a period of my life recently where I've become very conscious about anchoring really good experiences with the people I love, or people that I want to have in my life. And so I did a swim, and it was from origin of a river to the sea. So for us on the Sunshine Coast, Marucci River, our largest riverway.
So how far is that, just for people that don't know?
27 kilometres.
In a river. So just to give you some idea, in terms of these rivers, they do have bull sharks in them, and the visibility is not very good. So leading up to that, I knew Brendan when he did that, and leading up to that, the question was not, will you make it? It was, hey, do you think you're going to get eaten by a shark? And what was your answer, Brendan?
I bloody won't see them, that's for sure.
So that it wasn't just the distance, right, and the swim. It was also the fact that it wasn't the safest.
Oh, this swim freaked me out, and it went back over probably a bit over a year earlier. It was with a couple of guys who local identities up here, Jason and Sam, and it was Jason's 50th birthday. We're at this beautiful restaurant at the end of that river where it empties out into the ocean, and it overlooks. And we were there. It's on a crystal beautiful afternoon. The sun was setting, and drinking cocktails, and all these people, and I think Sam or Jason, they said to each other with me there and other people, and they're like, I don't think anyone swum the length of the Maroochy River. And I'm like,
And you
no,
were like, I'll do it.
no, no joke. And this was before dinner or anything. This is like, hors d'oeuvres and drinks, and I'm just like, no way, like you can't. That river's terrible, right? Everyone knows there's so many, YouTube videos of guys pulling up big bull sharks and stuff. And anyway, that idea just stuck with me. And like I said, I've always, every year, it's something that's a bit more scarier that takes me way out of my comfort zone. And there's, a whole heap of reasons why I'm doing that. And so that idea stuck. So I did that swim, and just to give you an idea on visibility, for a start, it was the hardest swim I've ever done. It was hot like a day like today, and the water was bloody hot. Like for the first 50 centimeters or so, it's hot. You can feel it, and I'd have to every five.
Like the top part of the water.
Sorry,
like the top part of the water.
Yeah, the top part of the. So I'd every 5 strokes or so, I'd dive under a bit just to drop my legs in and cool down the bigger parts of me. And I've got a bit of meat on me, right? So it's like trying to cool everything down. Anyway, I had it set up so that I would get to 20 plus Ks, and the last sort of 4 or 5 kilometers, I had 3 friends joining me, and they're people who really inspire me and move me a great deal. So they want, some of them might be on here. So one guy is Wayne Warren, who is a fellow who's partial quadriplegic, so he gets around in an electric wheelchair. He's a top bloke, and so he came and did that part. And I had Paul Gockel, who's a 2-time Paralympian, and he's has spina bifida, and his wife Kerry Lee Gockel, who has also done the Island Charity Swim, and she's an amazing woman who was born without arms. And so you can imagine those 3 people jumping in the water, and I knew that I was going to have a hard time getting to where our meeting spot was in the time frame, because we had to get this swim completed on the outgoing tide. If the tide turned and came in, it's way too strong down near the finish. We can't swim against the ocean tide. It would none of us would make it. So I just as hard as I could the whole way. Now they ended up having to leave before I got there, because we hit a sandbar with the boat, and we anyway. It was just really hard, and I was a bit slower. I think your original question was the people who inspire me, and yeah.
Okay, that's awesome. We've got a few questions, and I'm going to start with this one. Hi, Brendan. Can you see them, Brendan, the chat?
Not at the moment.
No. Okay, so I'll read them to you. Hi, Brendan. How do you recommend someone gets back into running after a long break or injury, mindset related? So we've got about 5 or 6 questions, so and about 20 minutes left, so 5 minutes or less per question.
Right. Yeah. So how do you get back into anything? I'm really interested in. I'm 54 now. I'm interested in that whole mindset of middle-aged people, and the lifestyle and balance of things where people lose themselves a little, and then they come back to training and everything again. And so that's a great question. I'm really interested in that. So just start out slowly and be really kind for yourself. Try and make it fun. When people say back to the gym, or they're going back to a pool, or going back to running, that can hurt you a bit if you're going to run out in pubs and roads and everything. I love trail running, and I'll get back to why we're here at some stage. That if you can make things an adventure and more fun, don't worry about times. Don't worry about, don't even put yourself on Strava if you're like that, and it's going to affect you. So if you're going to go and start out, I'd say go and find a place that's really cool that you would really like to go to run, or to at least walk or look around, and then do exactly that. Sort of jog, look around, have a bit of a look. Don't download a training program straight away that says, hey, look, you're going to go some fast sessions and some hard sessions and then some distance, and don't touch any of that yet. Get out there and just pick some really cool, fun things to do, and just take care of your body. And just be aware that, if you're 10 kilos heavier and you haven't been going to the gym or anything since 5 years ago when you last ran, that's going to have a little bit of an effect on your body. So don't start off at that.
I like that suggestion or recommendation of being kind to yourself, because we often, people they want to get there right away, right? They see themselves running like a marathon, and then when it doesn't happen as fast as they visualize it, they get put off and they give up. So I agree with that. The secret is to be kind to yourself. And also, one of the things that I've learned with all the injuries and everything that's happened in my life is be kind to your body, because it does so much for you. And every morning we wake up and we take it for granted. And if you're kind and you do it slowly and gently, you'll reach that milestone that you're getting to. Okay, we've got Reese, who has said, "Hey Brendan, thanks so much for sharing your story. You're amazing." May has said, "How do you suggest someone start ultra endurance events later on in life?" I'm 51. It's absolutely possible, May. It does happen. And what is your advice to May on that, Brendan?
May, the good thing is that you're probably in the biggest demographic of people kicking off doing ultra stuff. That's where everyone's coming from. When I talk to people who create these events and run these events everywhere, then they're saying, hey, this middle age bracket is where people are coming. They haven't run for 5 years. They come back and they get out into nature and they're doing these things, or they're doing a marathon again or something. What was the question again, Sam? I'm 51.
How do you suggest someone start ultra endurance events later on in life? I'm 51.
Yeah. Okay. So when you say ultra endurance events, there are categories for it. That events will say what they are. And you'll often find that there'll be staged categories in most organisers will put events on. So, for example, when let's say they have a 100K event, like our Blackall 100 up here, our local event, it has a 100-kilometre race, so the blue ribbon one, and then there's also a 50-kilometre one, and they've also got a 21-kilometre race in there. So the good thing with those is that the time limits aren't as strict for those lower ones, so that often the course is open longer. So once again, come back, ease yourself into it, don't turn yourself inside out. Give it a good red hot go, but just start training for it. Just get out, do longer sessions of things that are more fun. Try and find some friends and just invite them out.
Yeah, I was going to say that. Like, what about doing it with someone? Because a lot of the stuff that you've done has been solo as well. What is your suggestion or recommendation or thoughts around having a partner? Or like, I know you ran the last Blackall with your son Balin on his birthday, on his 18th birthday, and what was your time again for that together?
We spent Balin's thing made it, and he dug himself out of a hole, and it was my experience, and we spent 22 hours.
That's insane.
Yeah. However,
and you did it. You did it.
36 kilometers. I had to sit him under a tree. He'd melted.
And then you share with everyone what he was doing. I think what is not the next day, but the next day.
Sorry. What he was doing?
He was out, and I think he was surfing a day later. Is that right? Yeah.
And broke another bloody board. Yeah.
So do you recommend, like what with May at that part of her life, having someone to do it with, a friend, a sister, a partner?
Yeah. May, shoot me a note on Instagram or something. I think Sam's given that. And just so I know a little bit about your background and where you're at. However, for most people, I'm going to assume that you haven't done a lot of long stuff, or maybe you've done it for a long time before. Definitely, if you can find some friends, even if you can't find your friends to go and do that, there are so many clubs. If you pick an event that you want to do, like in 3 months, 6 months time, often they will have like little chat groups on different platforms that are all community of that event and supporting each other. And people will be saying, hey, I'm training in location. Tap into that. find some people who are like yourself, who will be doing a similar pace or something, and just pick some nice and easy training things to do. And the idea is to get out and just go for longer than what you normally would. And even if that starts as a bit of a jog and a lot of a hike, that's fine. Just walk up big hills, all that sort of stuff. Enjoy this sort of beautiful scenery wherever you can get. That's a great way to start, and definitely tap it in with really good people and good experiences and a good feeling. Yeah, that way it won't be, you're not punishing yourself. This is something you can enjoy and something you can really, there's so many benefits you're going to get out of it. Clear your head, your body will become better. You'll want to eat better. You'll start talking in a different way with people. People will see changes in you, and they'll want to do, you'll move other people to want to do something for themselves as well. So I'd suggest that's where a starting point. But yeah, you can reach out to me on Instagram or something, and I'll find out a bit of your background and say something. Yeah.
Okay. We've got Chloe as well. We're just getting quite a few comments and questions now. Chloe, morning, Brendan. Can you share some tips on nutrition leading up to a race?
Yeah. Okay. So I'll be really specific then. The 4, 5, 6 days a week before an event, I generally, there'll be, in the 4 days before, I will do 2 days with absolutely no carbohydrates. At that stage, I'll be trailing off most of my training, so it'll be far less. So I'll be starting to build up a bit of glycogen in all my muscles and everything, in your liver and that as well. You've got that fat there, and I'll just do a couple of days of super clean eating, and I'll do things like just salmon and green stuff like broccolini, snow peas, that sort of thing. And then 3 days out before the event, my favorite sort of food is I'll have rice, I'll have salmon, and I'll have a bit of green stuff. Although the dietitian just don't bother about it, just double up on rice, and I'll have sweet potato. Now, the sweet potato, they call it a cut price carbohydrate. It's got half the carbohydrates as white rice. So you're not getting as much carbohydrate into it. I just like the taste of it, and I just feel good eating it. And I actually, when I do endurance runs and stuff, I've cooked little squares of sweet potato and put cracked salt on it. So I actually like sweet potato. It's a good one. That's what I try and do the week before, if that gives you some help. I don't do heaps of pasta and that before it. I tend to stick with rice. I find I'm okay with pasta. I'm just a pig with it, and I love cooking. Really sauces with like cheese and other cheese, and it's just beautiful and cream. However, I don't find that's the best
To
thing.
help you when you're running. Yeah. Okay, we've got Brief who has said, is there anything that you still want to do?
Is that Bree, did you say?
Brief.
I think that's a great question. Always. People suggest things to me. I've got 2 swims that one that I'm really burning to do. Logistically, it's going to be horrific. There's like so many things, large costs to consider, mother boats, support boats, changeover a cruise and everything. That's one that I really want to do, and it's been in my head for over 10 years. It'll have to come sometime. There's another one I want to do as well that's very testing. However, logistically, that's a lot easier. I haven't committed to anything this year, swim wise. I'm trying to figure out quite a few things in my life and sort of put that jigsaw together. So, there's an opportunity to do a few things. And then there's some people that swim in the next
Rainbow Beach marathon, the trail.
Yeah. Okay. So, all right. So I definitely am doing the Blackall 100 this year. Yeah. And people, Alan, my son, who did it on his 18th birthday, which is an amazing story. So the organisers actually pushed the race back so that it could be on his birthday. You've got to be 18 to do that event. So Ryan did that, and there was such an experience. That was in October. So yeah, definitely doing that run in October. Definitely doing the Rainbow Beach Marathon, which is in
August.
And who else is doing that, Dr. Samantha Worthington?
I don't know. I'm non-committal.
I thought you were in. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, but You're
Mm.
straighten yourself out. Yeah, so those ones definitely. And the Island Charity Swim is like May, which is the 10-kilometer ocean swim. Typically, when I'll do that, I'll start early in the morning from Mooloolaba and do it twice now. I've done that last few years. So I'll do that again, I guess. And
So you're pretty busy this year.
yeah, it's just
And off to Japan as well with your boys for snowboarding.
yeah. Well, isn't that a story? So off putting top. Okay, here's something that caused me a bit of pain in my personal life of not getting my shit together or my acting. However, next week, the boys and I are going to Japan. I lived in Japan for a couple of years when I was a lot younger, and then did some lifeguarding in Japan. And I haven't been there for a long time, and it's always been a goal to take the boys. It was going to be something we did over a year ago, and I sort of launched that with our family back a couple of Christmases ago, and then I just couldn't make it happen. Cost of living was going out of control. I couldn't save enough money. There's a whole heap of things around personal habits and you just your whole discipline and everything. So I'm not a perfect person, and so don't look to me as though I am. And I'm happy to share that with this audience that I stuff up things and it has impacts. And that had some personal relationship impacts. I guess on failing, not making that happen, and that an approach to a whole heap of things. So I'm really happy that next week we're boys and I are taking off to Japan. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Mm.
Jamie O, Brendan, how do you find your drive?
Jamie, that's I don't know how you view the world and how you view people. I'm always amazed and not looking at myself. I'm always interested in just this whole concept of energy and where it comes from and the decision to do things. I have so much that I want to do, and sometimes I spread myself too thin, and uh, I'm constantly amazed when I see other people, what I see in them achieving things, and they make this happen, then they make the next thing happen. And the more that when I get to know some of those people personally, I realize that they really identify what they want, and they just go, they know that that's going to give them whatever return it is, fulfillment, pleasure, self respect. It's going to improve my health. It's going to make me feel great or whatever. They tap into those things. And so their day to day life isn't drawn away with all the crap that you can fill yourself with. So for me, I'm amazed that you can sit on a couch for an hour or you can get up and it's something simple I've been doing. And it's because I want to get just for fun. I want to get what is it called on Strava, the local legend record. I live up the top of a hill at a beach, and two street over is the steepest street in everywhere, right? Nearly on the whole coast.
Well, in the Sunshine Coast, yeah.
And
we don't have too many hills here. Yeah.
No mountains, just hills. Yeah,
No
if you talk to
yeah.
so do this like little 1K circuit around the block, and it involves this hill. So, and that takes like it doesn't take that long, right? Just over a kilometer. So I could get home, and you could just bum out, and next minute you could just be like having a snack before you cook dinner, and watching TV or doing nothing, right? Or have a drink, whatever you do when you get home. Or you can like quickly rip on your gear, and I can go for a walk or a jog down along the beach, just easy, and then I can smack that hill and just go, yeah, just nailed it, and come back and have a quick shower and get stuck into the evening then. And it's just your choice. Like you can make great things happen from these really small habits. So I try and do lots of small things and automate them and take the choice out of them. I know
Yeah.
that I'm going to be up just after 4 a.m. every day, and regardless of when I go to sleep, I know that I'm going to go hit it and train with the crew at 5 a.m. And do that work. Then I'll go to the pool. Then I'll race off to work, and I'll try and systemize it and have it as non-think.
Streamlined? As streamlined?
Yeah, just so there's no thought involved. It's already there. You've done it, and you know what you're going to do. Like, you know, the things are set out, and your default position is always a position of like good health and good food. Your default position is always, I'm going to get up and I'm going to do something. Now, there's going to be days where you're not going to go and flog yourself or something. That's fine. But you're still going to get out and you're going to get moving. You're going to keep that habit going. So
Yeah.
I think when you're talking about the energy or flow and where do you get that?
Yeah.
Set your bar, mate. And most people these days, most people's bar is down there, mate. And the expectations are really low. You know, just I've heard that be 1% better yourself. Anyone who does any reflections here, sits down and thinks at the end of the night, how did my day go? What did I do really well? What was I disappointed in? What will I do tomorrow? All those things. If you just think of that, like 1% incremental increases, you're going to be an amazing person by the end of the year. You're going to go to exactly the sort of person that you want to be.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that. Jenna, what has been your worst injury, or are you superhuman?
I'm definitely. Look. No one on this call here is striving for mediocrity, right? No one wants to be average. So when we talk about injuries or how you feel or something, I got a really good I'm mates with a couple of doctors, and one of them's my GP, and we surf a bit in that as well together. And so whenever we come to discuss, I think things that affect people my age and moving ahead, we'll often talk about things. And he says, "Hey, you can't do anything off label as far as it's quite popular for people my age, especially men or younger, to be considering testosterone and things like that. And I've been doing blood tests and tracking a whole heap of things for about 15 or 16 years on an annual or more than annual basis. And so I know what's tracking down and how things are. And I do everything that I can to sort of like optimize that to a higher level. So injuries don't plague me too much. I have had some little things that have been a bit of a challenge about a year ago or so. And so definitely go see get someone to help out there. And I think just I'm certainly not superhuman. I've been fortunate. However, I've looked after myself. I stay mobile. I try and do things and try and vary it up. I don't punish myself.
Stretch, Brendan. Do you stretch?
Every night. I should be able to do a little bit, 4:45 before we do a class, and everyone's like rolling themselves out and stretching, and I get in and do a bit and then do a bit at the end, and not enough. And I think so. A bit more yoga will be good.
Yeah. Okay. We've got just a couple of wows, and then Emma. Brendan, you are a super humble human and an inspiration to many. Thank you for sharing your stories, and I look forward to hearing about the next super challenge ahead. Thank you, Emma. Before we close off, Brendan, do you want to tell everyone why you're up there?
No, now you built it into something big, and it's not. Oh, well, it's not. Back to and look, we've had a couple of questions there. How do I get started on things? How do I get into ultra endurance stuff? How do I get the mindset into things? And look, I think one of the big things is surrounding yourself with really good people. And this goes back to I guess when I was first separating, and I wasn't too happy about it. I was pretty upset with life, and not in an angry way, just upset and sad, as you should be, or as you could be. And my neighbor 2 doors down, a fantastic guy, amazing athlete, and he's also a doctor. And at the time, he was he was also a registrar at the hospital, and he was doing psychology as well. And he just said, "Hey, Ben, you're coming out running with me. We're going to trails." And at that time, I was doing quite a bit of road running, and I was pretty, I was sort of at the peak of my whole life, actually, running really well for me. And so anyway, we came and did this run. And I'm standing at the top of the hill of where we did that first run. So the very first trail run I did was with this greyhound who's so fast and good, and he had so much patience. He'd run up these hills and I'd just be marching up with my tongue out and everything, and run up, turn around, run back down, get behind me and run up again. And I'd just be like, yeah, okay. And I remember we got up here and it was more winter time, and this beautiful view, which you probably can't see because it's so distant unless
we can see it. Yeah, we can see.
Yeah. So we'd come up and there's like cows down the road there. There's dirt roads coming up. We'd been through a bit of national park and really steep hills. And, you know, like today, I almost stood on a brown snake just down down on the road there. And so it's an adventure, right? And we get up here, and I remember just getting up here, and it was quiet. It was like now, and I was looking out across this beautiful vista and view, and all I could hear was my heart thumping and me breathing. And it was so beautiful. And from there on, I have really, I've just got out and I've really loved this place. I'll quite often run. It can be a big run. I can turn it into a really big run. It's big enough. And I can do it. I'll often do it like for some reason Thursday nights. I used to do Throw Up Thursday, I used to call it. And I'd either run that really hard hill near my place and keep doing them until I was almost sick, or I'd come and do these runs. And so you'd run through the bush at night and then you'd run up here, and it'd be so beautiful and peaceful and calming. And so I thought, I haven't even been up to the top here for over a year, I reckon. So I thought, I'm going to run up here.
Yeah.
And well, how's this? You're almost like, how bad was that? Like me trying to get on, I was still running down the road here because
yeah. When I called and said, "Hey, are you ready?" and you were still running.
That was the hardest run. Yeah. So.
Well, thank you so much for your time today, and for sharing your story with everyone. Chloe, incredible story. Brendan, thank you so much for sharing with us today. And I really want to thank you. I thank you for running up that hill today and taking the time to tell everyone on this call that it's absolutely a mind over matter. Feel alive. Be gentle to yourself. Be kind to yourself.
Budget for some.
Budget for, I can't say it. You have to say it. Budget for? Budget for when shit goes wrong. Okay. And believe, right? Believe that it's possible and that you can, and that you can do what it is that you want, whatever that is. Starting a business, doing an ultra endurance event, having the relationship that you want. Brendan spoke about his divorce and moving on from there, and being a single dad. So a lot of us are, we have career goals and business goals that we are going after, and very integrated in that are our personal lives, and they affect us. And that's what you were saying, Brendan, with your story, getting that story started when a certain part of your life or a chapter of your life closed. And that's amazing. Thank you.
No problem.
Yeah.
Hey, I really like that. You got a fantastic community here. I know so many people are doing good things, and I look forward to seeing everything that everyone does, and checking out your next Mentors and Mavericks class for sure.
Yeah. Thanks for being our guest. Thanks, everyone. So on the website, I'll still keep up Brendan's page for a while, so you can all go off there and onto that and have a look at his social media. There is a LinkedIn page and a Instagram page that you can follow Brendan on. He posts some crazy stuff, so it's pretty interesting to watch. And Brendan and I, as I said, are putting together a book. We're co-authoring a book about his events and his adventures, and my interest in his brain and his mind behind all of that. So that will come up this year, and we will send you all drop copies of that as Worth members as well. So you guys can look forward to that. Thanks so much, Brendan. We'll see you soon.
Thanks, guys. Have a great day.
Yeah. Bye.